So this is just an observation from my experience. But every male that I have had the opportunity to speak with in reference to their relationship issues, dating issues, or whatever, every single one from the age of, I think the youngest was 18 or 19, all the way up to 62, each and every one of those men took personal responsibility for their own part in the havoc that they caused in their relationship. Every last one of them. Now, if you want to know how many that was, it was at least 102. 102. Every last one of them. Now, they might not have done it right away in their relationships, but when they spoke to me and when we had our conversations, they took responsibility for their bullshit.
The British actually purchased grain that the Bengalis could barely afford to buy in order to ship it to Europe, not to aid the war effort, as his defenders claim, but to boost the buffer stocks in the event of a future possible invasion of Greece and Yugoslavia. People started dying, and Churchill said, well, it's all their fault anyway for breeding like rabbits. He said, I hate the Indians. They're a beastly people with a beastly religion. Australian ships were docking in Calcutta port and were ordered by Churchill and his odious paymaster, General Lord Chervil, not to disembark their wheat, but to sail on to Europe, where their wheat might be used in some future reserve stock, saying that people were dying literally on the streets, and all Churchill could bring himself to do was write peevishly on the side of the file, why hasn't Gandhi died yet?
Wow.
And this is the man the British want us to hail as an apostle of freedom and democracy, when he has as much blood on his hands as some of the worst genocidal dictators of the 20th century.
You see, the Biden administration found very specific money for the Asians, very specific money for the LGBTQs, very specific reparations for the illegal immigrants, not citizens, by the way, very specific money for Afghan relief, very specific money for Israel, completely different country, and on and on and on. All this under Biden administration. But when black people are asking for specific reparations, can we get some specific reparations, Kamala Harris?
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, no, no.
Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Bismillah, wa salatu wa salam, Rasulullah, wa ba'd, in the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I forgot I had my ear pods on. Sorry, I was just on the phone. Welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love and no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As we know, we got a lot of haters up in here, and I want to give a big salam to our brother Naeem Walid. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Longtime supporter of the show. I want to welcome Naifun, eliminating Raccoon in the ranks of Black Muslim leadership. Hayakum Allah. And of course, MO, a longtime supporter. So when we get into this topic, I want y'all to understand something before we start, is that Black leadership is something that has always been interrupted by the enemies. Okay, always. Okay. When we were brought over from Africa, that was the first separation from Black folk from their leadership. Y'all hearing me? You know, we were under the leadership of certain tribes and kings and whatnot in Africa. And that was the first separation we've had from leadership. And since that time, we have never had Black leadership, at least in the concept of the diasporans. And every single time a black leader rose up, our enemies have always found a way to destroy our leadership. So this must be understood first before we get into this particular topic. Okay. Once you understand this concept, then we can act appropriately in terms of our leadership. We are the only people that have been incentivized with freedom from slavery and biscuits and trinkets and fried chicken to destroy our own communities. So it is something that is ingrained in us from our enemies over a time period of centuries. Y'all hear me? So if you understand this, then you have to understand how sensitive this topic actually is and take it very seriously. Because we have been trained to destroy and dismantle our own leadership and to raise up and put people in front of us who are not our people from us, but rather there are people just in looks, and they are carrying out and upholding the systems of our very enemies. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Hanif. So like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon, and let's get into it. Okay, family, first of all, we have to understand that leadership comes from men first. And it doesn't make a difference what culture, what country, what language they speak. Leadership always comes from men first. The only people on earth that have given, not just given, but rather have been forced to allow the women to be the leaders in their communities are black people of the diaspora, okay, the descendants of slaves. Other than that, you will not find a society that, as a general rule, makes it a matriarchal society. You know what I mean? All societies have the men in the leadership positions, right? And this is imperative that black men choose mates who are suitable to carry out their roles as wives effectively. We have to understand this because the leadership comes from where? It comes from the men, correct? It comes from the men. So black men are responsible for choosing mates who will be suitable for the continuation of leadership within their communities. Otherwise, you will keep getting more of the same. We will keep getting more of this matriarchal mess. In any society, men are the leaders first. And they are the leaders in their homes first. Let's say walaikum salam to Hanif. Walaikum salam, Brother Hanif. There are leaders in their homes first. That's where they learn to be leaders. But if you look at these other cultures, okay, like I said, I actually respect some of these different cultures a lot because, you know, I interact with everybody, really. You know, even when I was in Saudi, I interacted with everybody, and you get to see certain things and how people do things, right? But if you look at these other cultures, no matter what they are, they have an understanding between the men and the women. They have this type of code, okay, a code of conduct, if you will. You will be a leader in your house before anywhere else. And the second that you choose women who insist on being the leader as wives, and she has control over your dwelling, your wealth, your movement, your children, then you have conceded leadership, not just to your house, but in the community at large. Every other people group, they understand this concept. So what is important for you to understand as black men is that leadership starts in the home, but before you become a leader in the home, you have to become a maintainer and a protector first. Every other people group, they practice this without exception, okay? They all practice this concept. They first become maintainers and protectors, then they build the families. But we have in the Black community, we have it completely upside down. We have a phenomenon where children are being produced without maintainers or protectors, correct? That is our situation. And the only way to obtain these skills of maintaining and protecting is to first become a follower. You have to become a follower first. You must become a servant first, a grunt, a peon. You have to go under the tutelage of somebody who has mastered a skill, hear and obey for a long period of time in order to develop the skills you need to become a maintainer and protector. Then you can choose a righteous woman to marry instead of these bottom-feeding hyenas and delusional baby moms that we have all over the place. Correct? That's how it goes. And we have a phenomenon in the Black community because of lack of sexual discipline and the hypersexualization within Black culture, which promotes illegitimate children and broken marriages and broken homes. And because we don't have any stable family, we don't have any stable community. And because we don't have any stable community, we don't have any leadership. And all of this is by design. It is important to understand this concept. It is all by design. It is not a natural, organic phenomenon. Your situation, your condition is imposed on you by your enemy. But your participation in it exasperates the problem. And it will only change with the men first. The women will not concede their position, their matriarchal power that they have in the hierarchy in the Black community. They won't concede that. Black men have to take it. Y'all hearing me? Black men have to take it. Leadership necessitates men to be decisive, assertive, driven, and articulate. I'm going to say it again. It necessitates that you be decisive, assertive, driven, motivated in your goals, and disciplined in your goals, and articulate. You have to know how to use words, which means you have to beat on your language. And you're not going to do that without reading. You see how it's all connected? And might I remind you of this study before we get into this reaction, okay? Let me just pull this up here. 1 second, y'all. I'm going to remind you of this study to show you just how devious your enemy is and how they understand the importance of Black leadership. And they will spend money to study you. Let me show y'all. Remember this study. The alt-right is mad about $600,000 Trump program in Kenya linking violent extremism to what? Masculinity. Now let's read this article again because I got to remind you. American conservatives and the alt-right media outlets are not happy with the U.S. program that aims to address links between masculinity and violent extremism in Kenya. The grant proposed by the State Department's Bureau of Counterterrorism January 12th, I believe this is 2020, aims to fund a project that looks at ideals of masculinity in Kenya and how to make men vulnerable to recruitment by fundamentalist groups. This is not about Kenya. This is about you. This is about black people. You really think that the United States really cares about Kenyans like that? Now listen. This is the crux of the matter here. Okay. The 2-year, $600,000 program says expectations of Kenyan men, listen, to be tough, heterosexual, aggressive, unemotional, and achieving. What are they spending $600,000 for? Taxpayers' money? They want to study Kenyan men who are tough, heterosexual, aggressive, unemotional, and achieving. Y'all hearing me? Listen, this is not all. Okay, are exploited by groups who appeal to these characteristics and offer an opportunity to fulfill these roles. What roles? Fulfill the roles of being tough, heterosexual, aggressive, unemotional, and achieving. To counter this, the department said that it will commission a study around this perceived link and will, through activities to promote male-to-male dialogue on issues of gender and I'm quoting here, encourage stronger social familial support structures. Does any of this sound familiar? Does any of this sound familiar? Did they not, your same enemy, buck break our ancestors? Why did they do that? To remove the toughness, the heterosexualness, the aggressiveness, the unemotionalness, and the achievingness. That's why they did that. Did they not replace the man of the home with government programs? Why did they do that? Because we had, and I'm quoting here, strong social and familial supports structures. We had that. You know, this whole alt-right, alt-left thing, I have a theory. I'll just share this theory with you. The far right politics versus this new type of this right-left paradigm. I have a theory on that. We know that the left-right paradigm are both tools to uphold white supremacy, correct? We also know that the numbers of white folks are dwindling, correct? We understand this. And this is why you have this far-right push. But in warfare, you want to make sure that you disarm your enemy, correct? in my humble opinion, this large push that we have from the left political stream, where they're inviting, the LGBTs and this type of protest movement where everybody has a issue to protest, all this kind of stuff, is a method in order to weaken the population so that these strong white males can come in and take over the political arena very quickly and easily. Because these white males on the right side of the political spectrum, they're not going to stop, and they're not going away, and they are militaristic. And when you have a militaristic body versus a pacifist body who is talking about peace and peaceful protest and all kind of stuff, you have to protest peacefully, and we all have to get along, and we have to respect people's rights and all this kind of stuff. Somebody who has a gun and doesn't respect the rights of people will be able to control 100 people who respect the rights of other people. Just one of those people with a gun will be able to control 100 people. That's my theory, okay? Why do you say that? Because if you look throughout the world right now, as we speak, look what's happening in Brazil. Look what's happening in look what happened in Hungary. Look what's happening in Peru right now. You have these militaristic, right-leaning political parties who are overthrowing these countries through violent means. And in Brazil, we had the January 6th happen on January 9th in Brazil. You get it? It's an international phenomenon. But I digress, okay? That's besides the point. The main point is that your former U.S. president spent 600,000 U.S. tax dollars to study men in Kenya who are tough, heterosexual, aggressive, unemotional, and achieving. Would you not describe Donald Trump as tough, heterosexual, aggressive, unemotional, and achieving? Would you not describe most alt-right men as the same thing? So why would they study this unless they mean to use this as a way to cripple the black family and the black population? Just like what they're doing over here with the LGBTQs and hip-hop music and whatnot. This study is about you. This study is about you. So anyways, our enemies understand the importance of leadership, which is why they keep assassinating our leaders. This is a blatant proof in and of itself that you black folk are not inferior. It is a clear proof that you're not inferior. Otherwise, they would have no need to interfere with our affairs, like by assassinating our leaders. They are afraid of you. They are afraid of your unity, which is why they dismantle it. So once you understand what the enemy is doing, you must act appropriately. You can't be the first ones to tear down your own leadership every single time they come. Any black grassroots leader that pops up will be the first your enemy will try to dismantle and destroy. They are going to be the first ones. So you need to stay on code. do not speak until the black grassroots speak. Every single time some other people folk talk about your people, you are right there running behind him. Yep, you right. He like this, he like that. Yes, sir, he is. Yes, sir, he is. They're the first people to do that. So now it's a new day because we have Islam now, correct? So let's look at this short video that Dr. Al-Haqiqah did with the. Let me just share this with y'all. 1 second, y'all. That's exactly it. It's a fear of a black planet. It is a fear of a black planet. If you are inferior, if you're really inferior, like they say that you are, if you're really inferior, like they say that you are, would they have to take over the hip hop industry so that your children can listen to debaucherous music and no other people group is doing what they're doing? Would they have to control each and every single one of your athletes and entertainers like Kyrie Irving and Kanye West? And Kanye West is a turd. He's a turd. Agreed. Okay. But Kyrie Irving, he puts a basketball in a bucket for a living and gets paid a lot of money to do that. And they don't want even him to have a voice, to stand up for his people. He's going off script. He's talking about black people are Semitic and stuff. He didn't even say. He just shared a tweet. Y'all hearing me? Once you understand this, if you were truly inferior, like they say that you are, would they have to do all that? Would they have to silence the black people that they pay a hell of a lot of money to rap or to throw a ball in a hoop? They wouldn't have to do that, correct? But they have resources, correct? They were working as a group before you. The fitna of black people that Islam cured in a large sense is the fitna of tribalism. And we still have black people, we still have Negroes who operate under the guise of tribalism. Particularly Somali community, definitely they're still like the last holdouts. They can't see the the whatchamacallit, the trees through the forest. You get me? All over the world, black people are starting to realize, wait a second. You know these nation states, the good thing about these nation states is that these nation states united the different tribes that were warring with each other and having tribal raids with each other under nationalism. That's the only good thing. That's the only good thing you can say that. One of the first people before the World War I to establish this model just happened to be Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, rahimahullah. He said he wanted to unite his people because his people were suffering from tribal raids for hundreds of years, poverty, starvation, ignorance, illiteracy for hundreds. He said, I'm going to unite all my people under Tawheed, the Arabs. That was his goal. And that's why you have Saudi Arabia today. You get it? That's the only good thing. But we, black people, because we're trained to look at black people in a negative light, we're the only people trained like this. It's in our media, okay? It's in our entertainment. It's in our family structures. It's even in the way that we speak about each other. I don't need no man. Bees ain't crap. The way that we speak about each other. We habitually call each other niggas and hoes and stuff. I've never, ever, ever in my life heard an Asian person talk about, chinks and yellow people or whatever in their music. Never. I never heard a Jewish person talk about kikes and Town and stuff. Never. This is something exclusive for black people. Did we start that? Did we start that? We didn't start that. That was imported. So I'm talking too much, but let's get into this reaction, shall we? Shall we? But we are suffering from this tribalism, and Islam was the first thing that came and ended this stuff. It came into Africa and united the African tribes under Islam without war, without a single drop of blood being spilt. Islam came and did that. You see where we're going with this? Now we still have tribalism from the diaspora and in the sense of gangs and stuff, Bloods and Crips and Peoples and Folks, and East Side and West Side, this type of stuff. Where a street can decide whether you are allegiant, or your allyship is with somebody, or you want to kill another person just from a street name. Just from a street name. This is why Islam is important, and this is what we have to understand this situation, and we have to act appropriately with our leadership. So anyway, let's have a look at this, shall we?
When it comes to black leadership, we are our own worst enemies. We reject it outright. We fight against it. We want to be the leader. And even if we don't want to be the leader, we'd rather there be an absence of leadership to enable or facilitate the stagnation that we currently face.
These few words, man, I wish I could use a little bit of words like this. Like, spot on. Spot on. We have been trained very well. We are the ones who destroy our own leadership. You got to remember, we've been dealing with meritorious manumission, and we still have some meritorious manumission Negroes up until this day. We've been dealing with the FBI and COINTELPRO, and we still have COINTELPRO Negroes up until this day. We have self-hating Negroes all over the place in powers of position. And not to mention the hundreds of paid coons and butter biscuits who are on these major media platforms feeding us nonsense. So it is up to us, the Muslims, now, because we actually have the solution. We actually have the real solution in the Quran and the Sunnah. And it's not like a cliche. It's a real thing. In Islam, it is wajib for us to respect our leadership. Bad leadership is better than no leadership. I could not have said this better at all. And he said it in such few words, and it was very deep. Let's keep going.
When we look, for example, up until recently, we look at on the African continent and we look at their national teams. The managers were white. Okay, we look in sport in the UK, very few, if any, black managers. We look in the boardroom, we see very few black leaders. We're in, I can go on. There's so many things that are going through my mind at the moment now. But when we look among ourselves, okay, in the black churches, there is black leadership. There's black leadership, but there's white Jesus. Go figure.
What he said right here, it's not just the UK. This is an international phenomenon. Brazil, okay, Canada, the States. You got to remember that pre-integration, there were black sports leagues because white folks didn't want to play sports with black folks, correct? Do you know what changed this idea about black athletes? You know what the driving factor was? In World War II, okay, or pre-World War II, okay, Hitler was pushing the superiority of the white race throughout Europe. Europeans were eating it up. Absolutely. Don't forget what you heard. Forget what you heard about Hitler, okay? Europeans loved that guy. They loved him. The British loved him. The French loved him. All these people who are hating him now, they loved him at that time. His book, Mein Kampf, was popular. Queen Elizabeth herself was being trained to do the Nazi salute by her father, and it's on video. Forget what you heard. Do you know there is a man, I believe his name is Jesse Jackson, right? No, is it Jesse Jackson? What's the guy's name? The runner. Put it in the chat, please. Or Jesse Owens? Was it Jesse Owens? The runner. He ran for the United States in the Olympics. I believe it was during World War II time. I believe so. Because I believe that it was a tactic by the States. He ran, this black man, Jesse Owens, right? It's Jesse Owens, right? Yeah, Jesse Owens, right? He ran for the States. Remember, Hitler is pushing all this anti-black stuff, right? Not anti-black, but pro, like this white supremacist, that white people are superior and everything. Do you know when Jesse Owens cleaned house in the Olympics, you know what these white folks were saying after that? They were saying it's because the Negroes ankles are so high, and that's why he's able to run so fast. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? That is when the world started taking notice of black athletes. That was the changing point. Then we started seeing, because remember, we had our own leagues. We had the Black Baseball League, for example. You know, it wasn't even a couple in the white baseball league. What is it called again? What's the white baseball league called again? The big leagues. What's it called again? I haven't watched baseball in so long. What do they call it? You know, back in those days, they had the white league and the black leagues. The major leagues, yes, the major leagues. But what is it? What is it called? You know how you have the NBA, the NHL. Yes, thank you. Major League Baseball. Thank you, black man. Major League Baseball. All right. Before that, it was the black leagues and then the Major League Baseball. Do you understand the amount of wealth that was extracted from these black leagues and sent to white people? And since that time, what you see in all these professional sports, hockey, the last holdout, and even that's the demographic of that is changing, because hockey is not a cheap sport. It's a very expensive sport. You know, you can't be poor in playing hockey. Basketball is a ghetto sport, right? All you need is a ball and a hoop. Baseball is a fairly cheap sport. It's not very expensive. You get some bats, some gloves, and some ball. You're good. Hockey is a different thing. Golf is a different thing. These are expensive sports. The talent was always in the black community. And so you have the talent being extracted from the black community. And the leadership is who? Who are writing these black men's checks? Look at the NBA, the most culturally popular sport in the West. And a Negro Basketball Association, okay? Coaches, white. Owners, white. CEOs, white. Management, white. But the talent is what? So if you understand this concept, these people say that we are inferior as a tactic. What if one day some Negro wakes up and says, wait a second, we got all the talent. Why are we being censored by these people? Let's form our own league. Do you know that could start a legit war? Do you know that? Which is why it's important for you to stand behind your leaders, because you will have to fight for some of this stuff. These people are very dirty and they're very devilish. There is no tactic that is beneath them. Black athletes have made billionaires out of these people. Black singers have made billionaires out of these people. Can you imagine in the 50s and 60s as a black man as a singer, you could not show your face on the album because white people wouldn't buy the album. Black people didn't have enough wealth to buy your album. Black people didn't have enough wealth to buy your album. Black people didn't have enough wealth to buy your album. Black people didn't have enough wealth to buy your album. Black people didn't have enough wealth to buy your album. Black people didn't have enough wealth to buy your album. Look at some of those crossover artists had to go through. But the point is, you're talking about people who not only steal land and resources, but they steal human beings and they steal talent. And then they blame you after they steal the human beings and they steal the talent for your ineptness. They are the ones who are breeding the ineptness. So you have to play chess with these people. You have to make chess moves. These little loudmouth checker moves that you're doing ain't cutting it. Not every argument is worth an argument. Let's keep watching Dr. Abdul Haq, shall we? Let's keep watching him.
Yeah, black leadership, but white Jesus, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Amongst black Muslims, you mentioned a group earlier on, which you know I consider a cult. The leadership, the dominance, the financial flow, all Asian.
Who is he talking about? Somebody put it in the chat, please. Who is he talking about right now? Let's rewind that. Shall we rewind that? I want to see if y'all, where are my intelligent black people at? Who is he talking about right now?
You mentioned a group earlier on, which you know I consider a cult. The leadership, the dominance, the financial flow, all Asian.
Who is he talking about? Tell the truth, shame the devil. Come on now, who is he talking about right now? Black folks fell in love with the Salafi manhaj. Absolutely in love with the Salafi manhaj. Thank you, Hanif. The information police, called Salafi Publications, stuck their noses in our business and profited off of the ignorance and gullibility of black people for decades. Y'all hearing me? Every single black Talib al-Ilm that did not toe the line with Salafi pubs, they went after them hard. I don't know a single black Salafi that they did not go after. And we asked this question before. Was it the same for the white duat? Did they have the same veracity against the white duat that they did against the black ones? Did they have the same veracity of even the Asian duat as they did against the black ones? And you think that's a fluke? It's because we are used to letting other people tell us who our leaders should be. And we are telling you here on the Black Grassroots Dawah channel, okay, the new black media, that those days are over. We don't do that anymore. And we will check you. We will check you. We won't argue with you. We're not trying to convince you of nothing. You go and you deal with your little South Asian duat. Leave us alone. We don't need your help anymore. Thank you very much. Let's keep listening.
Now, or you will have white leadership.
When it comes to this particular subject, you know, I know a bit of the history, even though I wasn't a Muslim or around, even I'm younger than you brothers, but you left that vacuum. And me personally, I know partly it's your fault, with all due respect and love. You are my elder. But when you left the UK, and alhamdulillah, you pursued your academic studies and your profession, and alhamdulillah, your career, and you've done a lot. But you was one of the few, or if not the only, Black competent brother who had the guts to stand up and take important decisions and be a man. Which, when you left, he left that gap, you know, and others who are like unlike the Asian community. It's easy to see that just looking at the colonial history of Britain in the subcontinent in comparison to the Caribbeans or Africa. You see a massive difference. The Asians have adopted far more, unlike the Asian community. You know, they have.
I just want to go back to what this brother said. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting this brother's name. He's from, I think he's from Portugal, right? I apologize. but anyways, remember we were saying, I kept talking about the Asian community, right? All the time. And I said, we can learn from these other communities, even white folk, and we should be learning from them. And we have to humble ourselves, shut our mouths, and pay attention to what they're doing. Now, what he said about Dr. Abdul Baker, Dr. Abdul Baker is one of those people who has he really does, right? And I don't mean to break his back or anything like that, but he's one of those types of people that has those decisive, disciplined, articulate, all those characteristics that you need in lead. He has those characteristics. He's not wavering. You understand? He has those characteristics. And when you see people like this, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, do not let three of you go and travel somewhere except that you pick a leader. You have to get used to picking leaders and being in a position of following somebody. Pick any man. We have to get used to doing these type of things. Pick any man. If he decides something, you're just going to fall in line, and that's it. The culture of, tearing down our scholarship, that has to end. That has to end. And as well as this ultra dogmatic, ridiculous, mindless hatred that we have for each other based upon the most minute details of dogma, and that has to end as well. That's like tribalism almost. It's like Crips and Bloods. We have to take the position, if you have something from the Quran and the Sunnah that I need to hear, brother, okay, just tell me what it is and I'll follow it. We're not debating, we're not arguing. You don't have anything, then you have to be quick to turn around and walk away. Not quick to argue, not quick to respond. Just leave it alone. Right? Leave it alone. Why are you sitting there arguing with, you know how many, whatchamacallit? What's the word I'm looking for? Do you know how many silly Negroes we have in the black community? Too many silly Negroes that just want to argue and fight. Just too many. You're going to fight all of them? You have to, at one point, decide that you're going to level up. You have to find people like Dr. Abdul Baker and try to reach that level. That's what you should be doing. But anyways, let's keep listening to what the brother has to say. Oh yeah, about the Asian community as well. The Asian community, let's hear what he said.
The culture of ambition, and that
he said that the Asian community has a culture of ambition. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Asians, when they come over here, South Asians particularly, they come over here with their choppy English accents, okay? Completely choppy English accents. They will live 20 people in a house. Grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, children, nieces, nephews. They will work minimum wage jobs, all of them together. And in 10 years, they will all have their own homes, their own cars. Their children will be going to university because they sacrifice. They sacrifice. They will take the most abuse. And we see it too. Like if you go to like some of these, I don't know, what like these convenience stores or whatever, and they start talking with their accents and whatnot. You see how white folks be talking to them, right? You see how they just assault them. But they will put up with it. Sacrifice. Can you sacrifice, argumentation for the benefit of your community? Can you have, for example, your sons and your daughters get married at a young age and have them living with you until they get financially stable? Can you do that stuff? Make sure that your sons and daughters are not paying rent. Make sure that they finish school and they're married. Can you do that stuff? And they're having children. You have to learn from these other people groups. Don't just watch in awe. You know what I mean? We have to, even our mindsets, the way we speak with each other, all of that has to change. The way that what we find useful in how we spend our time. We spend our time in entertainment and funny things. Wallahi, the other day, I swear, as Allah is my witness, the other day, this brother on Facebook, Muslim brother, right? He's used to, posting these weird posts. Okay, he'll post like the things that he buys in terms of shoes and clothing. He'll just post it. May Allah bless me. May Allah bless me. Allah bless me. Like, he'll post it. It's anybody who sees it can see it. This is like riyah, okay? But one day, this brother, he posted, I swear by Allah, he posted his credit score on Facebook. Never in my life have I ever seen anybody post their credit score on Facebook. But if they did, it would have to be a Negro. It would have to be a Negro. and that's exactly what it is. Only a Negro would post their credit score on Facebook and talk about how Allah has blessed him. There's some serious mental illness going on with our community. And if you try to advise the brothers, what would they do? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to try to, defend themselves and things of this nature. But that we have to be patient with our people like that. We can't just run them off, right? Even though he did something so crazy, we have to be patient because these are our people. Our people do crazy things. Our people do crazy things, okay? They do madness. But ain't nobody else going to be patient with it. Let's keep watching.
We as a community, we're not that ambitious. Just look at the colonial history of Britain in the subcontinent in comparison to the Caribbean or Africa, you see a massive difference. The Asians have adopted far more positive qualities from the British, if we can call them so, which they have, alhamdulillah, I believe is partly part of their culture.
Well, I have to address that part real quickly because our history with ours is not like the history of the South Asians at all, right? That last part there, right? We gotta understand that, right? We did not have the same path as they did at all. As a matter of fact, the South Asians were used as a management class for Black people all over the Caribbean and South America because they could take the heat. They were racially distinct. White people wasn't going to stay out in that hot weather day in and day out overseeing their slaves. So they brought the Indians to do it. The white people wasn't used to that type of weather. And they wrote in their books, in their literature, how passive the South Asians were. And they still like that to this day when it comes to white folk. They're still like that. They love themselves some daddy. However, we don't need to take that stuff from them, okay? We need to take their good qualities. And there's no problem in saying this. I think the brother Malcolm, right here, let me just show, let's post this here. The unifying variable in ignorance suggests success is having culture that extends past the shores of America. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. We can take that. What's the problem with taking that? Anyways, I put the link in the chat if somebody else wants to join me up in here, right? Shall we keep going, or you guys want to call it a night? What do you guys think? Because I can do another reaction to another clip here. And let me actually I put the post to this YouTube channel on the whatchamacallit, the description, in YouTube. You'll find it in the description. Shall we keep going or shall we call it? What do you guys think? Keep going. Hadi says keep going. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so I got another video that we can watch here as well and react to. And I'll put the link on if anybody wants to join me as well. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Sister Tika saying she missed it all. I apologize because I'm working as well, and I got stuff to do with, particularly my son now is getting ready to go to university and whatnot, and trying to kick his butt, right? And you know what I mean. So and plus I'm in school as well. I'm studying, right? So but I like to post the time of the topic at least 24 hours so that you guys have some time to check it. But I wasn't able to do it this weekend. I apologize. But so some of y'all didn't get the notifications, and YouTube generally they don't give me no love anyway. Let's just put it like that, Whitman. They don't give me no love, right? So you probably won't get the notifications. It's important for you guys to share and whatnot. But anyways, let's get into this other clip. Now, this clip I have not seen at all. So we're going to do this like we're going to be watching it in real time together. Just give me a few moments. Let me get this all set up. And I want to say walaikum salam to Sister Aisada. Who else did I miss out here? A bunch of people came in when I was gone. Hold on. Brother Mal Muhammad, walaikum salam. Sister Iman. Sister Iman, walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If I'm missing anybody, I apologize. Brother Josh, walaikum salam. Naeem, walaikum salam. I think I said walaikum salam to Naeem already. Okay, let's get into it. 1 second, y'all. Oh, walaikum salam, Sister Tika Malish.
Things on Bilal in the context. I think context is everything. And as you've rightly said, we exist as Muslims among a wider South Asian populace who have overwhelmingly contributed to development of Muslims in the UK. However, we've got to look at some things when we're discussing this, because when we look historically, it's not actually too long ago that South Asian identified as Muslims. That started taking place around the late 80s, especially in the time of the Salman Rushdie affair, okay? That's when the Muslim identity, South Asian Muslim identity, started coming to the fore and them identifying as that. Previously, was more of a passive perspective that we saw amongst the Asian Muslim blend and merge with the wider Asian diaspora.
Now that right here, I wasn't expecting that, but that is like 100% true. And that was my experience as well as going to high school. I didn't even know what a Muslim was, right? Until I saw, until I started listening to hip hop. But they were in our school. They were very happy to integrate into white culture and white society, and we didn't even know they were Muslims at all. Anyways,
amongst the South Asian Muslim community, and they sort of were happy to blend and merge with the wider Asian diaspora, irrespective of religion, faith, and backgrounds, because as a caucus, that was the way that they were stronger. Now, in looking at that, I'm only putting that out there for a context to see how there's been an evolution, if you like, a growth to where they are now. And we see that they're populating particular positions in society, which are positive. All of that's positive. However, what we've seen is that from the wider host society, the British society, when they talk anything Muslim, they consider it with a brown face and not a black face. And then when we look in the middle class, let's say substrata, we see that they still consider brown of.
In Trinidad, there is this phenomenon that went on for a very, very long time. Because remember, we're talking about how the Asian community, or the South Asian community, really, their history is not like our history as Black people, right? When they were brought over from South Asia to the West, in the Caribbean and in South America, whatnot, they were brought over as a management class for the Black slaves. But the one thing that is unique about the Asians is that white people did not try to proselytize them. They did not try to convert them to Christianity. They were allowed to keep their religions, even in the West, up until this very day. They were allowed to keep it. Every other, whether it is Native, or the Native Americans, or Black Africans, or whatever it is, wherever they went to colonize, they made sure to Christianize the people that they were colonizing. You get it? But they didn't do it with the South Asian community. Because not only were they considered passive and submissive and whatnot, but they, up until this very day, they are very happy to integrate into white society. To this very day, they're very happy to do it. Right now in Britain, for the first time in history, there is an Asian prime minister, right? Even though he didn't win by election, he just won by default. Still, nonetheless, all right, there's an Asian prime minister. And the British, there was a large contingent of British who lost their minds. Not because he's a bad person, not because, he's incompetent, just simply because he is South Asian. Only because of that. And I say this because in the West Indies, because they were brought for this particular reason, the Muslims in the West Indies and even in South Africa, Islam was always considered an Indian religion. Y'all hearing me? And you will find the children of slavery saying that's an Indian. And what are people in the West saying about Islam? And what are even the Muslims? This type of Islamophobia thing. I always said I don't agree with the term Islamophobia at all. I do not agree with it. Islam is a religion, not a race. It's not an ethnic group. If you're going to describe Islamophobia, you can't even describe Islamophobia. If you're going to say that term, then you have to say that Abu Jahl is an Islamophobe. Abu Lahab is an Islamophobe. Everybody who is, all the people in the history who resisted Islam, these people were bigger Islamophobes than these Islamophobes. But what is happening is, and you find your YouTubian Da'i elites equating Islamophobia with racism. And they're saying these people are racist against Muslims. How are you going to be racist against the Muslims? What is that? What is that? Islam is a race now? Wallahi, YouTubians are saying that. They are racist against Muslims. Wallahi, billahi tallahi. How many of y'all heard that? Put in the chat, please. Yes or no? Yes or no? If you heard some of your YouTubian elites call Islamophobes racist. What? What are you saying? All the yeses are coming. That's why I've never agreed with this fake. For me, it's a fake term, Islamophobia. It's something that you say to stigmatize people who don't like Islam. And if you're going to use that, then every other type of phobia exists, like homophobia. You know what I mean? All these people, the big one, homophobia, right? You're basically using this type of liberal type terms to racialize and to marginalize, make Muslims look like a marginalized group. And really, in 2023, there is no such thing as Islamophobia anyway. These people ain't afraid of Islam. They just don't like you. All right? And not like back in the day. Back in the day, you know, at times of itself, those people were really afraid of Islam and the Muslims. They were really afraid. Like those times it was Islamophobia. Yeah. If they saw the Muslims, they got scared. The Muslims had what's Izzah in English? Like honor and a reputation for, you know, being, you know, militant. In the 60s, in the civil rights movement with the Nation of Islam, those white folks were scared of the Muslims in the Nation of Islam. They were scared. Ain't nobody said nothing about no Islamophobia back then. These people are not afraid of no Muslims in 2023. I'm sorry to say that. They're not. Who's afraid of Muslims in 2023? Who? You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody afraid of you. You know? Come on, man. The fear is gone of the Muslims. But the point is, when you start using these terms in the West, people automatically think in their minds marginalized group, like homosexuals, homophobia, anti-Semites or anti-Semitic, like these type of things. They're going to think a racial type group. They're not thinking in terms of Tawheed and Kufr anymore. You get it? And they're going to see Islam as a culture, not a religion. They're not going to see Islam as something that is opposing the worship of anything other than the one true God. They don't see it like that. They see it as people who, you know, women, they cover their hair, and the men wear beards, and they eat biryani, and they fast 30 days of the year like Jews and stuff. That's how they're going to see it, like a cultural type thing. Because nobody told them that Islam is submission to the will of Allah. And they're only going to think of brown people when they think about Islam. You get it? But anyways, I digress. Let's keep watching now.
Particular persuasions, particularly or especially Sufi persuasions. And we have to ask ourselves in every instance, why is blackness, why is not the black community or black contingent of Muslims present in these more visible spaces? Why the black Muslim communities are not looked at through the same lens or same prism as not prism as in PRISM, in case anyone has a subliminal message in their head thinking, we're going to talk about prisons. No, looking through the same lens through which these other communities, Muslim communities, are looked at. Black Muslim in the West today is a double negative from a societal perspective. Because before being Muslims, those of us who converted, we were black. And we know statistics, various data regarding how we have been perceived, the challenges that are actually there, how we've been overlooked. I'm not going to go into repatriation and everything like this, but whereas there are causes that may be to do with Palestine, for example, the Uyghurs, that their focuses and solidarity and calls in defense, in support of these other causes whenever there comes a black cause, death of yet another black individuals, we saw very recently with the young man Michael, okay, Coke, I believe his surname was. We look at that. When we look at historical legacies of oppression and marginalization, they are being pushed and consigned to obscurity.
Now there's a new phenomenon, because this pushing the oppression of black people to the side to obscurity, that was, old school. New school is these Muslims who outright celebrate Black Death with no shame and no shyness. They outright laud the murderers of Black people and defend the murderers of Black people openly. And they bring the anti-Black media machine to their large YouTube channels. This is a new style now. It's no longer pushing Black oppression under the rug. That's like yesterday's news. Y'all get me? I put out this clip about the murder of this school teacher named Keenan Anderson. It's on my shorts, a small clip, 1 minute long. The first comment that came on this clip was from a Muslim. And they wrote something like BLM equals kufr from these baboons. From these baboons. Who are the baboons? It's Black folk. And then a whole slew of these white supremacist trolls came on that clip. And it's normal for the channel. Usually what I do, and I did it today anyways, is I'll block any trolls that come to the channel. Any trolls, I'll just block them, right? If you come here trolling, it won't be very long until I block you. We don't do that here, right? But the point is that a Muslim said that. They have no issues spewing their racism against Black people. We have big imams, okay, like these people who have scholarship, outwardly expressing their anti-Black sentiment. Like Asim al-Hakim, when the George Floyd protest broke out, he went to vilify the protesters. And he went out of his way to make sure to say, why are you destroying these people's properties? Only because they're white? Asim al-Hakim. You have people like Hassan Ali Kanani, who is reading from, I can't remember that scholar's name. And remember what he said about Black women? How he insinuated Black women are ugly and that their dowry should be half of white women, And instead of calling out the racism in that book, he says, well, you don't mean like black. He's talking about like the maids. Like this is how he explaining it. Hassan Ali Kanani. And those black people, they like each other anyway, so they can marry each other. Then he had in another video, wallahi, he said this. Wallahi, he said, if you go to America and he makes the quotation signs with the fingers, you go and you speak against the black guys, if you talk against the black guys, they'll throw you in jail. Wallahi, he said that. Wallahi, he said that. If you speak against the black guys, the black people, you'll go to jail. He has obviously never heard a rap song. He's never heard a rap song. Wallahi, he said that. And on and on and on. Now there's thousands, literally thousands and thousands of Muslims who are online telling Muslims it is okay to work with white supremacists to fight liberalism. Hundreds of thousands. This is the new style now. So you're talking about people who laud Black Death. And they get excited at Black oppression. And they become apologists for Black slavery inflicted on Black people in Africa by Arabs. And on and on and on. It's a new level now. They used to hide that stuff before, but they're getting very open and brazen about it now, which is why we say very openly and very clearly, these are not your brothers. And stop acting like they are, and do not beg them to be your brothers, but when they show you who they are, believe them. Let's keep going, y'all.
Whereas other historic abuses of other communities, other ethnicities, have annual celebrations, cannot speak about them in negative ways. If you do, you can be criminalized. You can lose your job. You can be cancelled, if you like, in inverted commas. So, and I'm going to jump forward with this to bring, I don't want to keep, you know me, I like to speak very directly, and I like to give evidence. So let me speak about what I'm talking about more directly. When we look across the waters at what is happening with Kanye West, one question was, or statement was mentioned, and I agree with this statement. When Kanye West, and I'm not a supporter of this, I hasten to add, when he made that very outrageous statement a few years back, that 400 years of slavery, that sounds more like a choice. We didn't see his supporters, we did not see those corporate industries withdrawing from him fake statements. The question has to be, why not then and why now? Those two.
And I want to deal with this too, because this is an excellent point. We got to understand that the reason that was allowed to happen is because we are not Kanye's paymasters. We are Kanye's supporters. There's a big difference. Whoever pays the piper names the tune, which goes back to our question about leadership, which goes back to staying on code, which goes back to having stable families, which goes back to becoming a follower for years and years and years to build yourself up. which goes back to sacrificing. There is way too much work in the Black community to be done for us to be fighting each other. Our paymasters are telling us exactly what they think about us. It is very easy for them to find a Negro who is willing to sell out our people. We are spending money with pictures of our killers on the faces of these bills. Our killers and our murderers are being passed around as currency. Those people who designed those bills and control the printing press, which makes those bills, also control the people they put in front of you to carry a narrative. If those people get off script, they withdraw their funds from them. You're not talking about righteous people here. You're talking about absolute devils. Absolute devils. You're talking about the type of devils that make devils look shy, okay? You're not talking about a godly people, a moral people, a loving people. You're talking about the plotters and the planners that Allah talked about in the Quran himself. These people who plot and plan. And Allah plots and plans. And Allah is the best of planners. He's talking about these people. Anyway, let's keep watching now.
Questions. And again, it's because of visibility. And when we talk about visibility, my brother, we're talking about visibility in not only tangible, but with regards to effectiveness, with regards to inclusion, with regards to involvement in society, with regards to presence. Because if all of that was there on a par to other ethnicities, other cultures, we would see an equilibrium established in how blackness, black people, black cultures are dealt with comprehensively. And I hope I'm being clear at the moment, Bilal. When I say comprehensively, that's in contrast to how we are dealt with today. In compartments, we are compartmentalized. So if you are into sports, that compartment has been widened for us to fit into that. If you are into music, that compartment has been widened for us to fit into. When it comes to politics, when it comes to other compartments of society, the mosaic that makes up society, you'll see that we are always being corralled, and I use that word clearly, corralled into particular compartments. And if the exception for one or two to get into other compartments like senior positions in politics, being the head of the university, for example, that's because it's the freedom, or those who have walked through those doors into those compartments are speaking with a narrative that is conducive to the dominant narrative, of which I believe is institutionalized racism and cultural imperialism.
He's talking about the butter biscuits. We know all about the biscuits. He talking about the coons and the shines and the sambos. That's what he's talking about. He's too nice to say it like that. We are not that nice though. We will say exactly what it is. He's talking about those folk, black looking people who are forever wagging the finger in the face of other black people telling them that Massa ain't doing nothing wrong. Massa got a nice house. He let you live in his house. He feeding you, Massa. Feeding you, Massa. Giving you clothes. That's what he's talking about. Black-looking people whose only job is to make sure that you follow the dominant narrative. Whether in Islam or not. We have those types in Islam as well. Make no mistake. You have coons and shines and sambos wearing thobes and beards. Now, don't be talking about that black stuff now. No. Ain't no racism in this line now. No. We all brothers now. Muslim first, Muslim second, Muslim second, Muslim last. I'm not black, I'm Muslim. Those types. Right now, what's going on in Palestine? The same Muslims who are pushing this alt-right narrative have got their wish in Palestine, correct? I can't think of a more alt-right government than the Zionist government in Palestine. Where did they learn this apartheid system from? Where did they learn it from? You think they got that from themselves? They just thought about it? I got a great idea. Let's put the Palestinians in this apartheid system. Even where did the South Africans learn this apartheid system from? Where did they learn it from? It's a copy-paste system directly from the States. Directly from the States. So when we say that the Muslim struggle is actually the black struggle, if you look at these systems, there's really no difference. All they did was apply the system that America taught them to Palestinians. They did the same thing in South Africa. In the States, it was called segregation. Then later, redlining. They had to sanitize it. South Africa, it was called apartheid. President Reagan vetoed the anti-apartheid bill not once, twice. Twice he did that. And it's the same system in Palestine. But y'all want to make sure that we cannot call ourselves black for you. We can't do it because there's no racism in Islam. But you want us to go and fight for Palestine, right? And we always, every single time in the front lines, every single time, Palestine, Syria, you name it. Every time, Afghanistan, always the black Muslims in the front lines, every single time. But that's who we're talking about. The coons, the shines, the sambos, but he's way too nice and way too educated to say it like that. I'm not that nice. I'm not as educated as him. I'm telling you what it is, okay? You know what I'm saying? We're all brothers. We're all brothers. Like, what? Negro, go chuck a duck, please. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, we've gone long enough, family. I'm gonna go get ready to go hit the sack. I'd like to thank everybody who joined me tonight. May Allah reward you and bless you all. And don't forget to support this channel on Patreon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ant. Wastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are the Muslim wing of the Black grassroots. Unapologetic, strong, uncompromising voices that have been in the faces of the enemy and those who tap dance for them. The Feachaz is proud to present the archives exclusively on Patreon.